Hello and welcome to the MHG podcast. As usual, life can be quite a bit miserable. Life can be very dark. But this week we are here to bring you as much light and as much joy as possible. I am the light of your world, Bradley, joined by the joyous of most joyful Joyeux Noëls. Don't know what that is. Stu, how you doing, Stu?
Joyous Noel. Well, yeah, Noel, isn't it? Yeah, Christmas.
I added a bit of French flair.
Yeah, I'm a Christmas Eve baby, so I am a kind of Christmas influence, let's say. But yeah, no, I'm in good spirits. I can't really complain.
You could be the real Jesus.
Yeah, I was close to being the second coming. It has to be said, but maybe because it was the day before, I'm the Antichrist. You never know. You never know.
There was a first coming joke there, but
No.
missed it.
Oof. Well, probably for the best, isn't it?
It is. Right. Before we get into the meat of things, just very, very quickly. Well done, people of Britain. Not often we say that. The riots that were planned for the Wednesday here, far-right riots, didn't happen. Mainly because hopefully a lot of it was just internet talk. But what was great to see in almost every location where it was threatened to happen, they would have been outnumbered by good people who basically anti-fascist, wanted to help their neighbourhoods, and for all the negativity we've seen, such as people attacking mosques, the disgustingly try and burn down a Holiday Inn with immigrants inside, including children. What we've seen is locals rallying together to build back up. There was a mosque that was targeted, partly destroyed, and the locals got together and built it back up instantly. There was a library on County Road in Liverpool that was targeted because they couldn't get to a mosque. That's now just been overwhelming with donations to get it back on its feet. And if it was a community library that helped the people around Everton, and obviously the wider city as well. Was also a food bank. But yeah, it's everyone's united together. We've seen in Brighton a group of about 5 or 6 far-right protesters completely outnumbered. Walthamstow, 10,000 people took to the streets to protect them. So yeah, it was in what was probably one of the darkest weeks in this country for some time. To follow that up with that much love for people is just lovely to see. And shout out to a particular woman, don't know her name. She's the woman from Barnsley. She's going to be my Ashley James Hero of the Week, by the way, because she's a typical working class woman who I think she described herself as coming from the estates and everything, who basically outlined why immigrants are so important to this country, why we should embrace them, and that we should be attacking the class system and not the immigrants. And yeah, she was someone that you would usually expect, and I hate saying this, her general look and her voice is someone you'd expect to be on social media or whatever, being far right and being fascist and anti-immigration, but to have someone who looks like that and sounds like that, talking about the positivity and being, look, no, and we are anti-racist. We should all be anti-racist. We should all be pro-immigration. Just love our fellow human. From someone like that with a thick Barnsley accent was absolutely joyful to see. Hero of the week.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, it's so important mobilising and making sure that you're visible, either wherever you can, really, on social media. That's a really big point to do it, or in person if you can. But obviously, always keep yourself safe in these situations, whichever you do. And yeah, it was really heartening to see. And what we always come back to, I can't remember. My wife always attributes it to me, and I always attribute it to my wife, but the expression that, if you drive past a field and you hear a load of loud donkeys braying, you can be mistaken for thinking you're driving past a field of donkeys, whereas most of the time you're driving past a field of horses and with one donkey in it. It's just that they're louder and that that doesn't mean that you're driving past a donkey sanctuary. It's you remember that. And we've been reminded this week that most people are good people and they do care. And it's the small minority that make a loud noise, and you can be mistaken for thinking that they're the majority, and they absolutely are not. And that's really good to be reminded of.
Yeah, totally. And if you want a bit of catharsis as well, the general mouthpieces, the popular mouthpieces, your Stephen Yaxley Lennons, your Farages, your Andrew Tates, are starting to try and throw each other under the bus as they eat themselves. There was a slight irony as well to Stephen Yaxley Lennon, aka Tommy Robinson, escaping out to Cyprus and then putting up a video complaining that him and his family feel scared. They've had to flee to another country and they feel scared. It's like, a lot of people pointed out the hypocrisy. Farage blaming getting information from Andrew Tate. Andrew Tate is clearly a woman, by the way, if you've seen any of the pictures doing the rounds of him in his swimming costume, where it doesn't look like he has male genitalia at all. So we can all tell someone who's, someone who knows what a woman is and everything, etc., 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 that, that's clearly a woman, because all I see is a vaginal area.
Well, that's right. You judge people entirely by their genitals, don't you? That's how you do it.
Yep, and that we now know that J.K. Rowling's had more feminisation surgery than most trans women. So it's all coming home to roost for all these people a bit this week, and I'm hoping that continues.
Definitely. What was really good the whole thing, the whole Kamala Harris camp thing of popularising, calling Trump and MAGA weird, that's had such a massive impact. It's almost like it's shaken people awake a little bit, and they've settled on the right word for explaining that passage of thought. That just, it's weird. Why are you behaving like that's really weird? And it just sums up how, without having to get into politics or without having to counter any points, or they come out with these sound bites, and the left has to then argue against the sound bites. Finally, there's a soundbite that just sums them up in a word. And then, if people go, well, why are they weird? And you can then list off the reasons. And you go, well, Stephen Yaxley Lennon, he's doing the exact thing he's accused others of. Trump is just a complete bizarre felon who's somehow on the world stage. And it's so easy to just do it then. But they're just having that word encapsulating them. And you can just throw it at people really quickly and it be true. And same with Andrew Tate, he's just weird. Why is he coming up with all this stuff when he's got his own body issues? Weird. Why is J.K. Rowling so obsessed with trans people and what's between people's legs? It's just weird, and it's fantastic, and it feels like there's a sea change. It really does.
Oh, totally. And I think sort of one of the big ones you saw, I'm trying not to get too dragged into American politics this time round because it's depressing enough as it is. But Tim Walz, is that how you pronounce his surname? Walz,
yeah,
is it?
So. I don't know, but yeah, well, let's go for
it. He's a breath of fresh air. Because they can't attack him. In fact, the one thing they attacked him for was look at his family, and his family looked perfectly normal. He's got a teenage kid that wears has no dress sense, but is wearing basketball shorts and a sports top and stuff like that. Just like a perfectly normal, happy family. And they're trying to find all these skeletons, and he's got a couple, nothing major. He's done a few bits in his past. But he's some kind of different, in a good way, sort of that uncle you like. He's your older uncle, was one of the eldest on your nan's side or something. But he's happy, and he's just kind-hearted, and I think she's picked a great running mate there.
Absolutely, yeah. And the mirror opposite of Vance, and that definitely plays into that whole weird narrative of you look at Waltz and it's oh yeah, he's done this, he's done that, he's got all these things, he loves animals, and he's got a family, and he was serving in the military, so that plays well with both the left and the right. And then you look at Vance and it's he's just fucking weird. Everything about every single thing about him is weird, and you just it's like things have totally changed, man. Oh, and back on very quickly while I remember, on that whole J.K. Rowling thing and judging people by their appearance and stuff. Somebody said. Posted a picture of Elon Musk and what he's had done to himself, and he's had his hair he's had hair plugs, and he's had his jaw made more square and sort of quote unquote masculine and all this, and it's like people need to explain to Elon Musk that everything he's done to himself is gender affirming care.
Yes, definitely. Oh, completely. Also, just want to point out, I don't know when her gold medal match is, but good luck, Iman Khalif. I hope she smashes it.
Yeah, me too.
And then, can we, for all those that decide that maybe she shouldn't be boxing with other women, what if we put Elon Musk and Iman Khalif in the ring? Just
yeah, just throwing it out there. Yeah.
That's a fair fight, isn't it?
Absolutely, I think so. Yeah.
But yeah, fair play. She's having to battle through all this. She's keeping her dignity, and she might come home with gold. Hope she does. However, Algeria, change your. Can you be coming to the modern era, please, with some of your beliefs that you've got going over there? Because it's both a good thing and not a good thing that you can turn around and go, actually, she'd be in prison in Algeria if she was trans or changing her gender or anything like that. So yeah, that's both worked out well in some ways, but let's not have to use that as a way of fighting her corner. Algeria, please, maybe.
Absolutely.
Anyway, talking of Algeria, I backed myself into a corner there, Stu.
It is underrepresented in video games.
They are. It is actually, isn't it, Algeria? Riyad Mahrez, he's from Algeria, and he's in FIFA. There you go.
Oh, right. Okay. Cool.
Which is a video game. Used to be a video game. Not a video game anymore. Yet.
No.
It's EAFC now. But there is a new FIFA coming under too. Anyway, video games, Stu. Yeah. What have we been playing? What have you been playing? You go first. I don't think we're going to have time for my third this week now.
No problem. Yeah, I've been playing a game called One Button Bosses. And that's very much what it does on the tin kind of a game. It's you control a spaceship or whatever, like basically a pixelated object that's represented a spaceship, and you have to destroy bosses. And it's got quite a few things going for it, a lot of stuff in its favour. So like graphically, it's very much a retro throwback. It looks like really early 8-bit era, at least in the beginning. It's monochrome. It's got that kind of a look to it. And essentially what you do is it's a shoot 'em up where you're placed on a line on the screen and you can only move along that line. And, that's not new. It goes all the way back to like Kicks in the arcade, early 80s. And it plays very, very cleverly with that. So generally, like you start off and you're on like a circle around the boss, and you go around the circle and you have to shoot the boss and avoid what it's shooting at you. So far, so good. Understandable. There's one button, and you have the ability to, like, it's an auto shooter. It shoots automatically, and your button just changes your direction at first along that line. Really, 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 really simple. And it layers that on without taking away from the initial premise. So it kind of like you have sections where you're on a line and the line is tiny and you can not move very far, but the stage moves around you. The boss moves around you, the other enemies do, and areas of the screen and things that impinge on your line become deadly. And you've got to work your way around them. And you get like different abilities that you can switch between as you go on. So the initial one is the one button changes your direction, as I say. And if you're thinking, because I immediately thought, all I need to do is like keep pressing the button so I'm changing direction and I'll be shooting at the boss and nothing will be able to hit me. Well, if you do that, your shot power is really weak, so you have to keep moving. So it's like there's inertia. Then the more that you move, the more powerful your shots are. So it cleverly deals with that. So there's that, and you can get different power-ups, like you can change it so that your one button speeds you up, and when you speed up you've got more power and you're also invulnerable, but it's only brief. So it cleverly messes with that, and the way that it changes the environment and gets it so that like, you can be going around this line, trying to shoot the boss, there are other bosses that are appearing. It'll do things where, there are growing spheres that it start impinging on your line, like I say, and there's also areas where you have to be in them to do damage. So it immediately starts mixing the formula up, and it's very, very clever. And they've obviously deliberately restrained themselves, the designer, to work within a narrow framework and squeeze as much gameplay out of it as they can. With the power-ups changing the entire system of play and having these zones of effect. It's like using negative space really well. It's like, what are the danger zones? How do we flip those, change them up, make them more creative? So yeah, it's got this really tiny footprint, but actually does a lot of clever stuff. And the shots are impactful when they need to be. You feel a good sense of progression. There's a little map tree that you go along as you're progressing through the game, and the bosses have character. They're quite, little bits of text about them are quite funny. And with it being so simple, like a single button press, you don't use a directional pad at all. It's almost like a mobile game that isn't a mobile game. Well, you could stick this on a mobile and no problem whatsoever. It could run it, no bother. You would have no bother with the controls. It's almost the best mobile game I've played for a long time, and it isn't a mobile game. So yeah, it's a really high recommend from me, this one. It's full of ideas, very clever, and really refreshing.
So this reminded me, so I saw this and I was tempted to take it, but I thought this might be better suited to yourself. But I was tempted because this kind of looks like a mashup of a Jeff Minter, TX, one of his Tempest games, whichever one's your favourite. Also, Vib Ribbon. That kind of idea, but also, did you ever play Sound Shapes on the PlayStation VR, PS3, PS4? It came out on. It was a Sony exclusive. Did you ever play that?
Yeah, I did play Sound Shapes.
It kind of feels like a mashup of all of those. And what I liked about all of those, obviously, they all had amazing music to them, including sort of like Jeff Minter, whether you go Space Giraffe or Tempest, which pick your poison. But with all of them, the music was integral. But unlike rhythm games, it didn't matter how good you were at rhythm games. Even Vib Ribbon, to a degree, really didn't matter how good you were with rhythm games. Is that the same here? Because it seems to be music plays a part in this. But does it actually change the gameplay in any way or anything like that?
No, it's just one of those that, like you say, it feeds into it. It's nice. It suits the atmosphere, but it's not, tied to the rhythm. I think that would probably, because it's quite a frantic game, and that might make it a little bit less accessible. It's a good idea. I think it worked well for another game, but it's just pure sort of pure action, really.
Cool. Yeah, no, I like the look of it. From the screenshots, there's quite a lot of levels that are bright white, and quite some that are dark, and then obviously some that are two-tone, different colours and stuff like that. Are there accessibility options, or is it that not in there yet, or anything like that?
There are. I had mixed results. So right at the start, you can choose. Now, don't hold me to this because I can't remember exactly, because it was literally just clicking through. But you can choose a light palette, a dark palette, and I think one of the colorblind palettes as well. I think you get those options at the beginning, and it immediately changes. However, I completed one of the first few courses, and the new level had a different design, and that was bright. So I'm not sure if that's just because they've not kind of quite patched that in yet, got it quite right. I can say though that the intention is there to have those options. I don't know if they've quite nailed it, but it's definitely there. I'd have to fiddle a bit more to find out exactly what, but yeah, it could be one of those where they're maybe just using a reverse colour palette, and it's just one of those. Maybe that was a bright. So the way you do it online when you're doing a website is you go, right, anything that's under this value,
swap to over this value. So if something was white, change it to black. If something was just off white, change it to just like a darker grey and stuff like that, and it basically reverses. But the problem you get is when you get websites that mix that up to a degree. So I wonder if maybe something like that's happened and it's just using a reverse palette swap, and then when it gets to one that's maybe a bit closer to something neutral, it's caused some issues. But hopefully it is something that they can look at and put in there, and it's not a choice. But it's good to see. It's good to see that, again, they have thought about it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely been on their minds, which is very impressive for a small studio. Yeah, it's good to see. Yeah.
And I don't think this is their first title from the program, but this is one of the Outer Sloth games. Outer Sloth, who are essentially Inner Sloth, who made Among Us, and rather than making an Among Us sequel, decided to take all their profit and start funding other indie games. So that is including at the moment Mars First Logistics. They ended up funding that while that's still in development. Click Holding, which is brilliant, by the way, if you ever get a chance to play that, and One Button Bosses are the first ones really out from that. So great to see that initiative is bearing fruit.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm interested in Click Holding. It's only £2.49 at the moment, so
it's weird. It's weird. You've got us. What I will say, you have got to find about an hour or so to actually sit down with it, because if you quit, it restarts. But that's part of the game. So I don't want to say any more, but yeah, just make sure you have got time to sit down with it. You can't just put it on for 5 minutes and then go, "I'll come back to it later."
Righto, noted.
Anyway, moving on. From something that seems like it's utterly fantastic to something that's really, really not. Game I've been interested in for a while is Japanese Drift Master, which is due to come out at some point. I like the idea of that whole drifting scene in Japan. Goes back to when I watched Tokyo Drift. The Fast and Furious franchise, and what I will say is this maybe lifts a bit from that, shall we say? But yeah, there's a story. You're someone who's at high school and gets drawn into drifting competitions, and you get to sort of like do the usual thing in these car games and buy a car, upgrade a car, etc., while you get stories. Come to this place and we'll do a drift competition, or come here and we're going to do this. And overall, it's a pretty decent idea. But the version I played, and this is the Rise of the Scorpion, which is a prologue to the actual game. So it's a glorified demo. But I don't know. Something about it, there's potential, but it was broken. It looked messy. I had weird things like when it booted up initially, it was a really low res and the screen was all squashed in weird ways, and I had to spend time going through it to try and get it looking like just even playable. The controls were at times borderline unusable. The drifting mechanics at points felt off. It felt like it was going for like a sim version but with arcade approach, and it just didn't work. And the theme is brilliant. So I love the theme, and I love that it's cheesy as hell. Like the story is like a manga based thing that I really, really like. And I think, don't hold me to this, because I was getting frustrated with it, but there's like an actual weather cycle as well, so you could be drifting and then it might go raining. I don't know if that's dynamic or pre-baked, but cool, I love that. But the physics were poor, and it just wasn't fun. But for a game like this, I want fun. If it's going to be cheesy and manga-y and lift from Tokyo Drift, that's got to be all in. It's got to be all in with it. The graphics are bland, in all fairness. The settings are lovely, but the graphics are bland. I was looking at this going, do you know what? If they'd given the cars a manga or anime graphic style, like, say, maybe an Automobilista? No, Modelista? What's the cartoon one? Modelista, isn't it? Mobilista's the serious game.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, but if they'd have given it the cars that aesthetic with the actual realistic like scenery that they've got, I think it would have been something quite special looking. But as it is, the cars look alright and they look shiny, but it just looks bland. Which, when you got a game that's full of neon because of the culture, that's inexcusable. And yeah, this feels like something that would have been released last gen, maybe. And it looks like maybe that's when they started on it, and it's only just now coming to fruition. I don't think all is lost. I think there is something that can be done with it, but it needs work. And I wanted to check, see if I was on the right side or the wrong side of discussing this. By the way, it's JDM Rise of the Scorpion, the prologue. JDM's going to be the actual full game. And yeah, it seems fairly mixed. Some people absolutely adore it. Others have just gone, oh, this is poor. Others have got similar feelings to me, that there's some bits that are really good, but it's lacking in all the vital areas. But as I said, I hope this is clearly a passion project by people who are well into the culture and stuff like that. And I hope they can turn it around. But as it is at the moment, I don't even know whether for free it'd be worth you trying. But I don't know. It's one of those. It's maybe they might patch a few bits. You know, I think that initial impression of everything being broken didn't help. They need to fix that. I tried it on PC and I got it. I tried it on Steam Deck and I got it. So I was able to recreate the issue. So if that is a standing issue at the start, they need to sort that, because it leaves a bad taste in your mouth before you even get going. Yeah, unfortunately, I wanted to really, really like this one. I just don't.
Yeah, fair play. No, it's that's disappointing, because it's not exactly like we've got a overwhelming number of arcadey races out at the moment. So yeah, seems like a missed opportunity.
No, but I did go back to Highway, Tokyo Highway thingy. I forgot what it's called now. I played it the other day. Tokyo Highway Extreme on the Dreamcast.
Yeah.
That was fantastic, and it still is. Yeah,
it's a long time since I played that one, but Dreamcast had lots of good races on it, didn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't need to clarify. I just said, I played this game on the Dreamcast. You go, oh, yeah, that was great, yeah. What's next with yourself?
My next one is another monochrome indie shooter. Like, I'm getting almost as predictable as you with the roguelike deck builders. But it's another intriguing one, and it's called Hate Me Not. So yeah, it's like a kind of a one screen but extended one screen shooter, which has got this unusual thing of, it's got a yin yang thing of the half the screen is black and half of it is white, and right in the center is an enemy boss. But the twist is you have to protect the boss whilst the boss is trying to kill you. So it's a bit like work, really.
A bit like marriage.
Yeah, marriage, work, all the big life events. And so what you've got to do is you've got to shoot the things that are approaching this boss, and it will occasionally take it upon itself to shoot at you as well. So you kind of have to dodge them. If you're in the black area, you don't get shot at by the boss. And that's where all the enemies come from. And in the white area, where all the pickups and the power-ups are. Unfortunately, once you go into the white area, you can't see the enemies attacking the boss character. You can't get him. So he's very vulnerable, and he's also shooting at you. So yeah, interesting dynamic. So you have to flip between the two areas, because you have to get like recharge for your guns and stuff like that, as well as pickups to enhance your abilities and flying around. So yeah, pretty good. pretty good like that. That's a really good idea. Now, there's a lot about this that I quite like. I think it's got a really good premise. I like the graphics, even though they're really basic. It's just got, again, monochrome, but that bright, white and black dynamic, it works really well. It's a good visual. The enemy sprites are fun. They're a little bit kind of random and kind of, a bit strange, which is nice. The whole thing looks a little bit weird. It kind of like doodles on somebody's jotter when they're trying to think of a game, which works really well. Again, you're not seeing the same sort of style sprites and getting, some of them are just like blocky bits of wood with faces on them. Some of them are centipedes. It's very kind of early arcade kind of inspiration in that regard. The downsides, it doesn't have a very, like, the weapons are not really impactful. They don't really, they kind of lost that. And it's one thing that I criticise in shoot 'em ups quite often, even if the rest of the game is good, that you've really got to think about what happens when your hits hit something. And one button bosses does it right, and this one doesn't quite get it. And it's always worth just playing some competitors' games before you start, putting these things out and going, right, do I need screen shake? Do I need to beef up the audio? Do I need to have more knockback? How many iframes have I got going on? You really need to think about those things, because the thing that keeps you coming back as really basic and simple games has got to be the feedback, and it's not quite there for me. It doesn't ruin the game, but it's definitely a point of note. One of the really big detractors for me, and it won't be for everybody by any stretch, is its mouse and keyboard. And I hate gaming on mouse and keyboard. I hate it. Like, I'll take any control method, really, other than mouse and keyboard. I mean, I loved, the Wiimote. I loved Waggle. I love, I use my VR controllers all the time. Steering wheels, HOTAS stuff. I am, an all-encompassing when it comes to different types of control method, apart from using something that was designed as a keyboard to type on a typewriter, 100 years ago. I just don't like using it. And I think that feeds in a little bit into the feedback of the shooting. It means it makes it accurate, yeah, but the movement for me is unfun on keys. And I don't feel it's very necessary for a shooter. I think it could have been turned into a twin-stick shooter without really much bother. So that really irked me. And I've not found a way...
Which is really weird, because the description on the Steam page says it's got full controller support.
Well, I mean, it works in that, if you do it with the analog sticks, it will move. But it's uncontrollable, because it's trying to move a cursor with with an analog stick,
right?
And the acceleration is never right when you do that,
Got it.
So yeah, technically it does, but it just doesn't feel right for me at all. So that's disappointment. But if you're into that, if you don't mind the mouse and keyboard thing, or you can get over the way the controls work, there's a decent game in there. It's not going to break any kind of barriers. It's not particularly thrilling in any way, but it's fun. It's solid. It's got a nice central concept. It looks pretty, and yeah, if it sounds appealing to you, yeah, go for it. It's not a bad game by any stretch.
And have you had half hour sat in a coffee shop worth of fun out of it?
Yeah, I would say that I have, yes.
Yeah, it's £4.29, so if you can get... again, that's how we look at this sort of price range. I think that's what we look at in it. If you can sit down for a couple of hours with a cuppa at most and get some enjoyment from something, it's paid for itself.
Yeah, it's a funny one, isn't it? Because it's a game that it's got obviously a lot of love and care in it. It doesn't cost much money, and here I am being critical, and it always feels very mean. But it's like, how do you review these things? But yeah, just an honest opinion, really, that it didn't. Yeah, because of the control method, it didn't click with me. I think the thing about the impact of the weaponry, I think that is something that is probably more of a takeaway for them, I would say. I think that's less of my personal opinion, more edging towards an objective thing. But there you go. Just my thoughts.
Excellent. No, I'm interested. I'll keep an eye, see if maybe there's any updates down the line, or see what they do next, because I like the look of it. I'm just not very good at the twin stick shooters. But it's, it's a good, if this is their first game under the Not Just Games banner. Who knows what they've made before individually or whatever, but as a first game, it's a good start. I would say that based on what you've been saying. Talking of games that should they be better on a controller rather than mouse and keyboard, I'm going to take an opinion now that everyone's going to agree with, especially fans of the genre. Okay, real-time strategy games, absolute best with a controller. Just out there. That's how they should all be done.
Just throwing it out there. Yeah.
Yeah, just... do you know StarCraft? Everyone knows StarCraft. Don't know if you played it or not.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter if you played it or not. No. Everyone knows StarCraft. It's a bit like Minecraft. It's not, the game's not like Minecraft. It's the name. Everyone knows it. It's like Halo. It's like Mario.
The cheers of gaming.
Yeah.
Everyone knows your name.
It's a bit like that niche adult title that's sold in Japan only that everyone knows. I don't know. Don't know. Anyway, so veterans who were part of StarCraft 2, made StarCraft, who broke away from Blizzard. So yeah, the veterans of StarCraft, say New Studio, and they're now going and making their own RTS called Stormgate, which... I don't know if it's meant to be a spiritual successor to StarCraft. Couldn't tell you. Don't know enough about StarCraft to claim. But I've played a couple of RTSs and enjoyed them. So I thought, do you know what? I'll give this one a go. It's going to be a free-to-play eventually. But it's already come out as an early access with some various different early access packs that give you a bunch of things. I was given a code for the Ultimate Early Access Pack, which is £51. And it gives you some stuff. So it's some extra missions, some Vanguard Gold, whatever that is, some extra heroes, all the usual gubbins you get in early access. But these games surely have to live and die on what's the gameplay like, because you can have, this going to have microtransactions and all that as it goes, because it's technically a free-to-play game. But it lives and dies on what's the gameplay like. Is it something you can pick up and play and enjoy from the get-go? And I come into it as someone who is not going to be playing hardly any multiplayer. Because I'll tell you why in a second. But it's got a single player campaign, which is always great. I think that this is a great thing. I think more free to play should do is make sure you've got a solid single player campaign to allow people to really understand your game before trying to then shoot them over to the multiplayer. So I'm sure there's a story behind all this somewhere. Like science, space, fantasy stuff, all the usual gubbins. There's mechs. I think it's set on Earth. And obviously you play one of, like, as with RTS, you're one of two sides. You're either trying to defend your planet or attack it. And the campaign starts off really small. You're like this. It starts off controlling an individual, then it teaches you how to control groups, how to control multiple groups, different tactics for attacking. It's a really decent, solid single-player campaign, which I really enjoy. And when I played it, the only annoying thing was you had to finish what you was doing and get into the end because there was no pause. They've added a pause button in, I think, yesterday as we recorded. I've tried it and it worked, so great. They've added pause, so if you're someone like me, you've got kids off in the holiday especially, you can pause the game and go and do your things, come back. I don't think you can midway save though. That's early access still, so we'll give them benefit out there, and to be able to save on single player wherever you can. But what it does, it really introduces you to the different ways of different strategies. How do you flank? How do you attack these types? How's the best way to sort of build up your resources? Should you send these to gather? Should you send these to attack? How many units should you do? And it's a really interesting campaign, ignoring the story. I've ignored the story, not going to lie, don't give a damn. All these games for me they're so set in their lore that all I care about is can I play them? don't care about story. The AI seems challenging, which is good, but not overbearing. It really is a campaign for newcomers, but without being, oh, this is a mouse button, press this mouse button. It literally doesn't insult your attention like that, but it is, oh, you need to left click on this unit to control, to select it, and right click somewhere to go. So it goes right. You should know that. If you're coming into a video game like this, surely you know how a mouse works. So I'm okay with that. I mean, you'd have had to learn to use a mouse to get into the game to start with. So if you get into the tutorial of a game like this, you don't know how to use a mouse,
there's a problem.
Yeah. So again, what they've really thought about is like, what do we need to teach people? What do we go, right, we assume you know this. It's also got, what's that thing called? Not a dictionary.
Thesaurus?
What's that? What's that thing called where it tells you, like, you can go back and see all your tutorials and everything? And get more information. Yeah, whatever that is. But it's got one of those, and that goes in depth. So the tutorials you're doing it is pretty bang, 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 do all this. But then you can go in, you can look at it all and get more details about what everything does, different factions, all that. Encyclopedia! That's the word.
Of course.
Yeah. Now, I have jumped in online. Nah, not for me. I went in, stuff happened, I died, I gave up. Tried again, went in, stuff happened, I died, I gave up. I forgot that the people who are into their RTSs are really into their RTSs, and they do things like clicks per minute and stuff like that, or key presses per minute, is it? And they're like Olympic level bloody athletes with their fingers and everything. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm still trying to decide, do I want 2 people in my little group, or do I want 3? And I'm busy selecting them, like with my mouse, dragging them and going, oh yeah, I remember I can actually press this button to select multiple units, and forgetting to do that and looking where the UI is. By the time I've done that, my opposition people have built bases around my base with mechs and turrets and everything, just all aimed at me. Alright, oh, hi. We're just sat here doing nothing. You white flag, go on, come in. So that's kind of how the multiplayer went for me. But again, I've had to go and look at other people's reactions because I'm not an expert on RTSs. Some people don't like it. Other people have gone, look, there's got issues online. I couldn't tell you what they are because, again, I don't know enough. And a lot of people are going, oh, I prefer StarCraft. Well, of course you prefer StarCraft. It's been around for 25 years now?
Something like that, yeah.
That's 25 years of building. This isn't. And the problem you've got with a game like this, I suppose, is exactly what's happening. People are going, well, there's this new game for people who work on StarCraft. Why isn't this as good as StarCraft? Because it's a brand new game. And they've got to do something that makes it not StarCraft as well. So again, from people who have, like, literally all the negative comments seem to be people who go, oh, I played StarCraft, and it's like, yeah, okay, but it's early access as well. My big issue, honestly, is that it came out early with you paying anywhere between like £22 to £51 to get in on it. I don't like that. I would rather see them go, we launch for free, and it's free, and then if you want to support us with these packs, not to get in, get these packs. I know they're not the only ones to do it, but I would hope we're seeing a move away from that. I don't like paying to get into an early access free to play. There's other ways of doing it. Or just be honest, just go, look, we need the funding to do it. These are our supporter packs. You don't need them to get it, but we need the funding. So if you really do like it, or you want to help us, you want to get involved, then these are our packs and this is what you get. Because I'm okay with a free-to-play game, which for me, I tried to not use any of the stuff I've got unlocked It was more than playable with base characters and everything like that. It was more than playable. So as long as it's got that, it's playable without spending, and then someone can spend to get extra skins and heroes or whatever that don't totally unbalance the game. Fine, I'm okay with that in a free-to-play game, because again, they're in it to make money on the whole. So you either make an RTS like Command and Conquer where you charge out the gate and that's the cost of the game, or you go free to play and you do this, but don't do the charge to get in on early access. That leaves a bitter taste, especially when the gap between the early access and the free to play release is 14 days.
Yeah, that's not right.
No, but as I said, I really enjoyed my time with the single player. And I hope maybe they add more single player stuff down the line. Charge for that. Right now, you've released, when it comes out and you've got like your first basic missions, if you want to do more single player, charge for that. I don't mind that. I don't mind paying another tenner for another 10 missions or something like that are in a single player only environment. I don't mind that if you've got to do that, because I really enjoyed it. I think if this goes completely multiplayer, PvP and stuff, then that's probably me done with the game. Not as a fault of the game, that's a fault of me going, even in 2 years of playing this, I'm still going to be sat in a camp with a tent while other people built full-on welds around me and aiming their laser guns at me. But yeah, it's good. Veterans have said there's many issues, but as someone who's come into it fresh and doesn't know much about it, I really enjoyed the single player stuff, but I'm not a big fan of the pricing structure.
Yeah, that sounds fair to me. Yeah, what a strange decision, but there you go.
But they're not the only ones. So yeah, it is a strange decision, but it seems to be the way of these sort of games. I don't get it.
No, it's a bit of a mystery.
Yes, that it is indeed. But yeah, out of my comfort zone for that one.
Yeah, it's good to do it now and again, isn't it? And yeah, you kind of get a feel for whether things have changed in that genre enough for you to dip back in, or whether that's enough for you, kind of thing. But yeah,
goes without saying, don't play this on a Steam Deck though.
Oh yeah, no way.
I tried. I don't know why my first thought was, oh yeah, this is the play well on the Steam Deck. Then went, oh, no one's made a control scheme for this yet. I better try and do it. I better go sit at the computer and play this instead. Yeah. However, the argument is there. The Steam Deck's getting ever popular, guys. Start thinking about controller support.
Yeah, exactly. It's got to be tackled these days, I think.
Yeah, and it's done. There's other RTSs that have done controller support, so it can be done. I know it's not as good, but the Halo Wars games could do it. Use that as a base, because it's better than nothing, and it will open up your game to a good number more people. Because I think the Steam Deck is what's going to be taking over down the line. Not this Steam Deck particularly, but that model. I think we've had... we're now looking at, just slightly off the beaten path a little bit, but we're starting to see other companies now making smaller console-sized PCs that can run 4090 graphics cards with decent airflow. So everyone's starting to think, can we get it smaller? Can we actually get to that thing where we can actually get a handheld that's as powerful as a desktop PC? And all that, you've got to start thinking about these things moving forward, because you want your game to be playable on as many potential devices as possible. Yeah, controller support down the line would be nice, but it's PC. It's on Steam. It does play on Steam Deck, by the way, quite well without the controllers are the issues. Someone's bound to make one that works, but don't rely on them. These developers.
Yep.
Anyway, that's enough for that.
Yeah, that's it.
I realised we went on one today, didn't we? Nearly an hour. Oh,
that's good stuff.
I should think about if I've got anything else I want to say, Stu. Anything else I want to go off on a tangent? Oh, no, I don't. I'm just dragging it out. So I think now is about time for... Unless there's anything I always do this. Is there anything you wish to add or speak about, Stu, or should I just shut up?
You can just shut up. That's fine.
In that case, I will just shut up now.
Cool. Yeah, no, I've talked about everything that I wanted to cover. Well, I suppose only to mention that I've got Super Polygon Grand Prix, which I've just started playing. Not enough to gather proper thoughts on, so I'll probably cover that next week. So yeah, look out for that one we'll be talking about. But yeah, apart from that, as usual, follow us on all the socials, check out all of our content, join us on Discord if you wish to chat about any subject, including mental health. And apart from that, stay safe and stay sane.